Dale Hoffman's bank statement showed $347. His property tax bill showed $890, due in 5 weeks. His field showed 40 acres of standing corn losing money every day it sat unharvested. And his tractor engine block showed a crack that the mechanic from Garrison said was impossible to fix. "Can't weld cast iron, Mr. Hoffman." The kid couldn't have been more than 23, still had that technical school confidence that came from never being truly desperate. "You try to weld that, it'll crack worse. Even if the weld takes, which it won't, it'll fail under pressure. Basic metallurgy. You need a new block." $1,200 for a new block, 2 weeks minimum for delivery. Dale had thanked the kid, watched his shiny service truck disappear down the gravel road, then stood in his machine shed, staring at the 1948 Farmall M that had pulled him through 23 harvests. November in Iowa. Perfect harvest weather. His corn was ready. His combine was ready. Everything was ready except the one tractor he needed to haul wagons from the field. His wife Martha found him there at dusk. She didn't say anything at first, just stood beside him looking at the cracked block. 41 years of marriage meant she already knew what numbers he'd been running in his head. "Called the dealer again," she finally said. "$1,100 if we can wait 2 weeks. Corn'll be ruined by then. Rain's coming." Dale pulled off his cap, ran a hand through gray hair. "Charlie Benson said I could try your father's way, but he also said the last 3 people he knew who tried it all failed." Martha's expression didn't change. "Your father never failed." "My father had 20 years of practice. I've only done it 4 times. Dale looked at her directly. "If I try this and it doesn't work, we've wasted 2 days. Corn gets worse every day. We'll have to take out a loan we might not be able to pay back. If you don't try it, we take out the loan anyway." That was Martha. 41 years, and she still cut straight to the truth. Dale nodded slowly. "Best get the furnace ready then." His son Michael showed up that night, home from Iowa State for the weekend. Found his father at 10:30, feeding the oil burner that heated the homemade furnace. The engine block already inside, glowing dull red. "Dad, what are you doing?" Dale explained the situation. Explained the technique his grandfather had taught his father had taught him. Michael listened with that expression college kids get when their education slams into their parents' experience. "That can't work. Thermal expansion rates, stress fractures, metal fatigue. Everything I've learned says this will fail." "Probably will." Dale adjusted the burner. "But we're out of options that don't involve money we don't have. This could make it worse. You could completely destroy the block." Michael pulled out his phone, started typing. "Let me see if any of my professors know a cheaper solution." "Your professors ever miss a mortgage payment?" Michael stopped typing. "Your professors ever stand in a field watching their year's income rot because they couldn't afford a part?" Dale checked the furnace temperature by feel, a gesture that made his educated son wince. "I respect what you're learning, Michael, but sometimes the people who came before us knew things the textbooks haven't caught up to yet. Or sometimes old methods failed, and people forgot about the failures, only remembered the successes. That's called survivor bias. I learned about it from you last Christmas." Dale smiled slightly. "Charlie Benson's run that supply store 46 years. Says he knows 3 failures in all that time. How many successes you think happened that he doesn't know about?" Michael set his phone down. "Walk me through it. Not the steps, the why." So Dale explained, not in engineering terms, but in the language of necessity. Cast iron brittle when cold, workable when hot. The secret wasn't the welding, it was the temperature control. Heat the whole block evenly so no part stressed against another. Use nickel rod that moved with the iron instead of fighting it. Cool it so slowly that thermal expansion never became thermal shock. Patience mattered more than skill. Time mattered more than technique. "The cooling's the part I don't understand," Michael said. "Different materials, different expansion rates. When it cools, new cracks should form. Not if every molecule cools at exactly the same speed." Dale opened the furnace slightly. Heat washed over them. "That's what takes 24 hours, making sure nothing cools faster than anything else." 24 hours. Michael did the math in his head. "Dad, that's 2 full days of harvest weather. I know. We could borrow equipment from the Carlsons. Ed Carlson's running his own harvest. He's got twice our acres. Dale closed the furnace. This works or we're taking out a loan. Those are the options. Michael didn't leave. He pulled up a crate to sit on, pulled out his engineering textbooks, and started reading by the machine shed's single overhead bulb. Dale dozed in his chair, checking the furnace every hour. Father and son passed the night in silence, the furnace glowing against the November cold. 40 acres of corn sitting in the field, losing value by the hour. At 1 in the morning, Dale pulled the block from the furnace and placed it on the prepared sand bed. Still glowing, still hot enough that Michael felt the heat from 6 feet away. Dale picked up his welding equipment and began immediately, laying short beads along the crack, working in quick sections, moving methodically down the 4-inch break. "Why short sections?" Michael asked. "Less stress in any one spot." Dale didn't look up, focused entirely on the work. Each bead adds heat. Small additions, different places, let each one settle. The welding took 90 minutes. Dale's hands were steady, no shaking now. Just the sure movements of someone doing work. His body understood even if his mind couldn't explain it. When the last bead was laid, he examined it under the harsh welding lamplight. Clean, even, no obvious flaws. Then he picked up the still hot block and put it back in the furnace. "What are you doing?" Michael's voice carried real alarm. "You just welded it. Now you're heating it again. That's another thermal cycle. That weakens metal. We're erasing the stress from welding, taking it back to uniform temperature, then bringing it down controlled." Dale closed the furnace door. "Go get some sleep. Nothing happens for 8 hours now. I'm staying." They sat in silence. Michael read about cast iron metallurgy and thermal stress, trying to reconcile textbook theory with what he was watching. Dale dozed and checked the furnace, making tiny adjustments to the cooling rate based on feel and 23 years of farming experience. Outside, the November wind picked up. Weather radio said rain in 3 days. 3 days to get the corn in if the repair held. Dawn came grey and cold. Dale had let the furnace cool for 6 hours, the block coming down from over 1,000 degrees to around 300. Now came the part his father had always said mattered most. He pulled the block out, placed it on the workbench, and immediately started covering the welded area with thick wool blankets. Martha's clothes iron heated on the kitchen stove went directly on top of the blankets. Michael stared. "You're adding heat back. The weld wants to cool faster than the block. It's thinner, more exposed, different metal. The iron keeps it warm while the rest catches up." Dale arranged the blankets carefully. Everything cools together, or it doesn't work. They changed the iron every hour. Martha brought a succession of heated irons from the house, her laundry equipment pressed into service, saving their harvest. The morning dragged into afternoon. Michael paced, checked weather forecasts on his phone, calculated how much corn they were losing every hour. The tractor sat idle. "Stop it," Dale said quietly. "Stop what?" "Worrying won't make it cool faster." Dale replaced another iron. "It takes the time it takes. We could still call the dealer. Rush order might get here in 10 days instead of 2 weeks. And cost another $200 we don't have." Dale looked at his son. "I know you want a backup plan, but sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes you commit and trust it works." Evening came. The block cooled slowly under its blanket cocoon, still warm but no longer hot. Dale left it wrapped overnight, and neither he nor Michael slept well. Dale thinking about loans and lost harvests, Michael thinking about the gap between engineering theory and farm reality. Morning broke clear and cold. Perfect harvest weather, perfect conditions to watch their gamble either pay off or cost them everything. They were in the machine shed by first light, the block finally cool enough to handle. Dale began reassembly, bolting it back onto the tractor frame, reconnecting components. Michael helped, handing tools, learning the mechanical work that college hadn't taught him. By 9, the Farmall M was whole again. Dale poured coolant into the repaired block, watching for leaks. Nothing. The weld held water. First test passed. He added oil, checked connections, made final adjustments. Then he looked at Michael. "You want to start it? This is yours, Dad." Dale climbed onto the seat, set the throttle, engaged the choke, pulled the starting rope. The engine turned but didn't catch. Second pull, coughed, sputtered. Third pull. The Farmall M roared to life. Dale let it idle, listening, checking. Engine sounded normal. Temperature gauge climbed steadily. Coolant circulating through the repaired block. No smoke, no knocking, no warning signs. He advanced the throttle gradually. Half speed, 3/4. Still smooth. He pushed it to full throttle. The tractor responded with the strong, steady roar that had powered 23 harvests. Michael was grinning, his engineering skepticism beaten by simple evidence. Dale let it run full throttle for 20 minutes, watching gauges, listening, feeling for problems. Nothing. The repair held. "Let's go get that corn," Dale said. They worked 5 straight days, dawn to well past dark, racing the weather forecast, getting 40 acres in before the rain arrived. The Farmall M ran flawlessly the entire time, the repaired block showing no signs of stress or failure. On the 5th evening, with the last load safely stored, Dale shut down the tractor and just sat there, hand on the steering wheel. Michael climbed up beside the tractor. "I'm writing this up as a case study for my materials science class. What are you going to tell them? That my dad saved our farm with a technique that supposedly violates basic metallurgy." Michael paused. "And that sometimes practical knowledge knows things theory hasn't figured out yet." Dale climbed down, put his hand on his son's shoulder. "Your great-grandfather taught your grandfather because failing meant losing the farm. Your grandfather taught me for the same reason. Now you know it too. Think I could do it if I had to. Hope you never have to find out." Dale looked at the Farmall M, at the machine shed at the farm his father had worked, and his grandfather before that. "But yeah, I think you could." The rain came that night, heavy and cold, the kind that would have ruined standing corn. Dale and Martha sat at the kitchen table, going over the numbers. The harvest had come in good. Not great, but good enough. They'd make the tax payment with a little left over. No loan needed. The farm would survive another year. "Charlie Benson called," Martha said. "Wants to know if you'd teach that young mechanic from Garrison how to do cast-iron welding." Kid laughed at me when I mentioned it. "Charlie says the kid's been asking questions ever since. Wants to learn the old methods before they're completely gone." Dale thought about his father, about his grandfather, about generations of farmers who'd kept equipment running through depression and war and hard times by knowing how to fix what broke. Tell Charlie to send him over, but tell him it takes time. Can't learn it in an afternoon. The Farmall M ran for 12 more years before Dale finally retired it, not because the engine failed, but because he bought newer equipment and decided the old tractor had earned its rest. The repaired block never leaked, never cracked again, never gave any trouble. It sat in the machine shed for years after that, started up occasionally for parades or farm shows, a reminder that sometimes the old ways worked when the new ways said they shouldn't. Michael took over the farm eventually, running it with modern efficiency and technology, but he kept the Farmall M, kept it serviced and ready. His own son, Dale's grandson, learned to drive on that tractor, learned the story of the night his great-grandfather welded a crack that couldn't be welded, saved a harvest that couldn't be saved, and proved that sometimes impossible just means nobody's tried hard enough yet. The young mechanic from Garrison learned hot iron welding from Dale, practiced it, passed it on to a few others. The knowledge didn't die completely, though it became rare. By the 2000s, most farmers just replaced broken parts rather than repairing them. Economics had changed, farming had changed, the necessity that created the old methods had largely disappeared. But every so often, someone would face a problem that modern methods couldn't solve, a part that couldn't be replaced, a repair that couldn't wait, a situation where the standard approach simply failed. And if they were lucky, they'd find one of the handful of people who still knew the old farm fixes, who'd learned from people who'd learned from people, who had no choice but to make things work. Dale Hoffman's successful repair of his Farmall M in 1971 proved something important. It proved that the knowledge built through generations of necessity had real value, that patience and understanding sometimes mattered more than speed and convenience, that wisdom could be found in unexpected places. The technique that saved his harvest represented more than just a welding method. It represented a whole approach to problems, a philosophy of self-reliance that built American agriculture. That knowledge is largely gone now, replaced by methods that work well enough in our modern world. But the fact remains that on a cold November morning in Iowa, a 63-year-old farmer did something that a certified mechanic said violated basic metallurgy. He did it because he had to, because his father had taught him, because generations before him had figured out how to make the impossible work. And it did work. The engine started, the harvest was saved, the farm survived. Sometimes that's all that matters. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this story of old farm ingenuity valuable, please subscribe to our channel where we preserve and share the forgotten wisdom of rural America. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who appreciates the practical knowledge that built American agriculture. Your support helps keep these important stories alive. This video is inspired by real historical events and agricultural practices from mid-20th century America. Dale Hoffman is a representative character who reflects the genuine experiences of hundreds of American farmers who face similar challenges and developed these remarkable repair techniques during the Depression era through the 1970s. This content is presented for educational and historical purposes and is not intended to represent or offend any specific individuals or groups. The hot iron welding technique described here was a real practice used by American farmers, though we recommend consulting professional welders and mechanics for any actual repair work.